Welcome back, everybody, to another round of Suns and Shadows cast with Jeff and Kev. This time we got Space, Above and Beyond. And this is from the creative minds of James Wong and Glen Morgan. You might recognize their names from Final Destination, the TV show Millennium, and quite a few other features and television projects to their credit. All right, Kevin, I grew up with this show, so I definitely have some fond memories of this one. But what about you?
I remember the commercials. That was about it.
Commercials? Because this show wasn't marketed at all.
Maybe it was in a Wizard magazine then. I don't know. I remember seeing the name somewhere. But the show that I remember seeing that I thought was this is not this. I think it was like Earth 2 or Earth X.
Oh, Earth 2. That was on NBC, I believe.
Was it?
I think so, because it was like with Sequest.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's right.
That's a show I wouldn't mind covering on here either. That's a very interesting show that ran like one season.
Well, it's got Ray Schneider and Ray Schneider and Jonathan Brandis in it. So.
Oh, I was talking about Earth 2. But okay. That's how we derail our very first discussion of Space Above and Beyond by talking about two other shows.
Welcome to Fox. No, I never did see this, and I don't know why. Like this would have been something I watched.
Yeah, for me, I remember watching the commercials for it because back in the 90s, I was easily about Married with Children, X-Files. You could run down the list of all the other shows. I could talk about VR5. I could talk about Prophet. All of them were like during this sweet spot of the 90s where Fox had great shows and promptly canceled them all. However, most would survive. But I would see the commercials for this on X-Files for sure. But it seemed to be like once the first episode aired, all the commercials stopped. There was no marketing. Any ads you saw were minimal at best. And so the marketing for this show was basically non-existent. So that's probably why you might not have seen too terribly much as far as commercials go.
Yeah, I am greatly surprised because, again, a lot of what we watch from the 90s and 80s is camp and cheese. And
yes,
you look back on it and you're like, oh God, hindsight's a bitch.
And it's not even close. A lot of the stuff is campy. Even Star Trek at times could be campy.
Yes. And this was kind of a pleasant cross between Star Wars, Star Trek, and Starship Troopers. Like, this was a better version of Starship Troopers than Starship Troopers was, going according to the book.
This is closer to what Starship Troopers should have been.
Yes, I guess that's what I was trying to say. And there were some great tones to it, like them fighting, not knowing that the rocket had been destroyed. And then the fight stops because they're seeing the news. It's so very much the bugs blowing up. What was it, Point Osiris?
Yeah. Tellus colony again.
Oh, I was talking.
You're talking Starship Troopers.
All right, so let's go. Okay, we're gonna go over this then. This show starts out so cheery. Like, you have folks getting burned alive in their sleep. You have
it starts off very promising and hopeful and like, oh, what kind of show is this? I mean, I know there's a military thing gonna happen, but hey, this is a nice start. Oh damn. Oh, yeah. They all dead.
Yeah, and you're like, oh goodness, they're all getting blown up. Oh no, they're getting rounded up and burned up. That's some shit. They showed that on TV back then. And it was it elicited more joyous reactions when, what else did they do? They shot down the rocket. They made lovers quarrel amongst one another. They forced a guy to join the military as opposed to go to the brig. It was just very cheery beginning. Oh, and I'm sorry, the execution of a young girl's parents right in front of her and her sisters.
Not by a government entity or anything like that, by artificial intelligence. also known as silicates in the show.
But we don't find that out until later.
She remembers in the third episode that it was the AI that did it because she remembers the sound of silicates. Electronic chirp.
Damn birds, the boys. That, how can I put this? That was a really good version of Terminator. That was a better story and reason for the machines going nuts and rising up than Terminator ever did. Like, they explained it so simply.
Yep.
Take a risk. Like,
Choice or chance. Take a chance. Kill them all. Take a chance. Kill them all.
yeah. I mean, even the new Child's Play. Well, no, Child's Play didn't do that. They just had the guy go nuts and tell the doll to kill. They turned the evil Krusty to evil mode. I just derailed myself again. But the silicates in this, yeah, I liked them more than the Terminators. I liked the take a risk. And it made me laugh that they were compulsive gamblers as a result.
That was pretty good. It tends to play itself out very well throughout the course of this entire show, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, for full disclosure, everybody, we're only covering the first 12 episodes up to the River of Stars. So anything after that, I know what happens. Kevin doesn't. This is his first time watching. So we're not discussing that, but I will allude to a couple things here and there so I don't spoil it for him.
Well, I got to get right back to work tomorrow anyway, right?
Yep, because we're recording our next episode very quickly.
Well, I would probably do that anyway because, again, a lot of the shows that we've covered, you're just kind of like, by the time you get to the end of the series or the season, you're like burned out. And you care about these people, but you just want to get to the end because you're burned out of watching it. I don't get that with this show. This show is legitimately fun, and I care about what happens. I could tell you the names of the characters of the show, and that's certainly saying something for me because I've got a shitty memory and I don't remember the names of characters.
By comparison, you can't even name one character from War of the Worlds when we covered it last August. By comparison, you probably couldn't name half the cast of any of the other shows we've done except for Ash versus Evil Dead.
I know Reagan McNeil
from Exorcist. I mean, we've done quite a few shows, and while I tend to have a memory for some of that, I know Kevin doesn't, but like just the fact that this is his first time watching and he's remembering character names because they're so unique, they have good development for all of them. At first, when you get first introduced in that pilot episode to basically everybody except for like Commodore Ross and a couple others later, it's basically McQueen has like 5 minutes of actual talking time towards the end of the pilot episode. And, but everybody else just, they get their easy intros. And then as the show develops, so does their characters and the chemistry they have with one another. And by the time you get to like Stay with the Dead, you're completely captivated by this cast. I'm not saying you have to watch like the several episodes before to get to that point, but the first episode, if that doesn't grab you with the characters, the second one will. And from that point, the show hits the ground running.
Yes. And the core cast I've learned to like very quickly, but I'm very skittish and standoffish with getting too emotionally attached. Like Pags was a learning lesson. I liked him and he died quick.
Well, this isn't like Game of Thrones. Don't get too attached to people because up to this point, like our main cast, it's been put in peril, but they ain't dead.
No, not yet anyway. At least not that everyone's aware of. But
Right.
I like this cast. I like you said, their backstory. Everyone's got a reason for joining the Marines. Everyone's got a reason for hating the Chigs. And it's they come off as a very dysfunctional B-team family. Do you remember that video game Bad Company?
No.
It was one of the Battlefield games, and it was called
Battlefield Bad Company. Okay.
Yeah. And it was basically the B team, the losers that were like the demolition experts that blow up everything. They're too destructive to be killed. That's kind of how I felt about this family. They were just cool.
Yeah, I mean, the mishmash of the characters, you wouldn't think it would work out well, but everybody plays to their strengths. If anything, there might be a couple characters that are a bit underplayed. I think if the show had gotten a second season, they may have been able to take more of a step up into their roles. And who I'm talking about is basically Damphus and Wang. Although I liked Wang and how he played through this series, especially in this first half.
I like the two of them. I do. And I liked the episodes that they've had. I liked Damphus's not being able to walk past the blood. That was really convincing and fun. And Wang, his stories, like, they're just neat all the way up to what could have been completely hokey, the River of Stars. And it wasn't. It was believable and nice, for lack of a better term. I don't like nice. I don't like Christmas.
But so you could relate.
Yeah, like, I'm a Halloween baby through and through. But I dug that episode, and I liked him specifically in it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his character arc throughout the whole show, but in this first half, it really stands out for me because he's one of the more relatable ones immediately, because you don't relate to him because he's a Chicago diehard football fan or anything like that, but just the way he interacts with everybody, he's pretty chill, he's pretty relaxed. He's kind of that, hey, he's reliable, we can rely on him to do this, that, or the other. And from time to time, dude steps up and excels. Like, it really fits the bill of the show, above and beyond. You watch these characters go from where they start, and through the course of this first half, they all go above and beyond the role of their characters. And just for example, Nathan West, he starts off as the most white bread, plain as hell, run-of-the-mill, vanilla character you could possibly imagine. Oh, he got separated from his girlfriend who's going on a ship on the colony, so she gets shipped off. Oh, I'm going to join the military so I can maybe have a chance to be a security detail on there. Then all hell war breaks out, and you think, all right, that's going to be a running thing throughout the whole show, however many seasons. It's going to be a cat and mouse thing, and he's just going to be this doughy-eyed guy who never grows up, who never fills in, grows a set, does much of anything. And within a handful of episodes, you're completely turned on your whole world's turned on its side. It's like, what's going on with him? Wow, he's growing up quick and he's not putting up with shit. And it gets to the point where in Stay of the Dead, where he has to carry that whole episode himself, and the focus is on him, and he not only nails it. And Morgan, dude, if you're listening, I think you're like fantastic. And that's not just blowing smoke, that is legit. Like, this episode proved you can do more than just lead an episode. You could be the lead of a movie, in my opinion, because you showed a range that was much necessary for that episode to work to begin with. Without that episode has no gravitas at all. And at that point, if you aren't buying into these world-class talented actors on this show, you're not gonna stick with the rest of the show. And quite frankly, if you can't acknowledge their talent, don't watch it at all, because these guys it's just like the name of the show, above and beyond. And just to circle around and tie it all in a nice little bow, you take that plain character, boy does he evolve, and boy does he turn into something very impressive and a character you can actually get behind. Whereas in other shows, he'd be that Clark Kent character all the way through, and that doesn't happen here. And that's the way it goes with a lot of the characters. They don't go where you think they're going to go. They go in better places.
Well, that's good. That's what you want, because nowadays TV is all based on who can we kill? Who's going to do the worst thing? Who could screw each other over?
Let's subvert those expectations, yo.
Yeah.
If you had any sort of talented writing staff, you didn't need to do that. You watch this show as a template, and if you're a good writer and a clever writer, this is a good example of what you can do with a show without oh, let's be cute. Let's turn this person evil, and then let's kill this next person the next episode, and then let's have what they were doing for the last 4 episodes of being nice was actually really.
And then Marlena's going to get possessed by the devil.
And then she's going to kill basically everybody else on the show, and Days of Our Lives is over.
Ta-da!
As sand flows through the hourglass, so is space above and beyond. At least the show doesn't turn into that kind of a soap opera show.
No.
It's a space opera, but that's a good thing because that is a genre of television that I feel is sorely missing these days since The Expanse got canceled for the second time.
Well, I don't know if it's because of Mandalorian or
that don't count.
Well, I'm just talking about anything on Disney Plus. Like TV has got a shortage of sci-fi for a long time. Like even sci-fi in general, but good sci-fi, they haven't had it that I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, we've had disappointment after disappointment from all the big name franchises, Star Wars, Star Trek, regardless of your opinion of them. Not everybody likes Discovery. Not everybody likes Lower Decks. Not everybody likes Picard. Not everybody likes this, that, or the other. And then it just keeps going around in a loop for every other franchise. Star Wars. There's not many other space science fiction shows that are out there. I mean, I can't really think of one off the top of my head. Everything's been long gone or dormant or been beaten into the ground. And you got a franchise like this, and I'll get into it in the next episode when we talk about its cancellation and where it might go next. But, you know, it's unfortunate, but we need more shows like this. There is an audience for it.
I would say so, because damn, like, how long can you flip through channels before you like, all right, well, let's go see what's on streaming? There's
all right, I'm going to watch anime because at least they got something going on.
Oh, it's
or wrestling or
flashy and shiny, and I don't have to think. This is fun. Let's have fun TV again.
Yeah, and this show is a bit like lightning in a bottle. Like something got captured here that's just tremendous. That I would argue was also proof concept for Stargate SG-1 to be a valid TV show based off of a movie, because that didn't happen yet for another couple of years. And you can easily point to this show, military sci-fi, and yes, Starship Troopers came out, and yes, Stargate the movie came out before that in 94. However, you didn't get that. You wouldn't think like, hey, let's put that Stargate into a TV show and let's go with it. That took effort. And this you could show as, hey, we want to do something like this, but a little bit different and inject a little more comedy, make it a little more, you know, down and easy on the humor, more sarcasm, things like that. I mean, yes, this show took everything very seriously. Stargate SG-1 did as well. However, they did keep it light and they kept, you know, the humor there. They definitely did enough different to try and make that show. But without this show, I would say that Stargate SG-1 had a little harder of a time getting made without it.
Huh. So, I mean...
And I would also argue Battlestar Galactica later would take this as a reference, the remake series. They definitely took this concept and ran with it.
That I could believe. And those shows, those lasted longer than this, didn't they? Which is kind of shitty.
Well, just real quick, Stargate SG-1 ran 5 seasons on Showtime. That got booted. Sci-Fi Channel picked it up, ran it for 5 more seasons, 6 more seasons, then it got booted. But it also had 2 spin-offs. Both of those got booted. And then Battlestar Galactica, that basically ran a mini-series and 4 seasons, got booted. Caprica, booted. And so, like, they all had lifespans of a sort. But yeah, they did run longer. But eventually the money runs out because of ratings and cost per episode.
Yeah, and you know what my guess would be is we were far enough past the Gulf War and in a time of peace and taking life for granted that military shows weren't that popular. Like it wasn't the focus to get wasn't the focus on TV to get the crowd watching, I guess, or behind the war.
Okay.
The propaganda machine wasn't there. So I don't know. I don't know. Or maybe it was Fox being Fox, but this was good. I wouldn't have canceled this, which is, I guess, why Fox did.
No, but tune into our next episode and I'll tell you how I really feel about it being canceled. Because then we'll be talking about all those episodes and how it ended and everything above. I'll go above and beyond on Fox and that on our next episode.
Finally, I want to hear what you have to say about them.
Well, quite frankly, this is the show that pissed me off the most when it got canceled. Of all shows on Fox, and we covered Brimstone last October. That broke my heart, but we had an interview going on with Ethan and Cy. We love you guys. But, when we talked about Brimstone last year, I wanted to get mad. I didn't. But this show, I cried when this show ended. I'm not too shy to admit it, and there's a handful of episodes that make me cry or choked up whenever I see them. There was one in this first half that did it, and I told you about that. And when this show ends, every time I rewatch this, I cry and I get very angry, and then I want to start watching like another space show like right away because I need to vent off my space need. I almost feel like I need to get shot out of an airlock every time I watch this show. And that's not a bad thing. It just means I need more. I crave more. This show is like pure cotton candy, sugar, and caffeine rolled into one. It's like, I can't get enough of it.
Speaking of airlocks, and this will pertain, my 7-year-old, Harley, learned how to blow Lego stormtroopers out of the airlock on Lego Star Wars this morning. And I'm bringing it back to this because, again, we were talking about blowing things out the airlock, but she's also the hugest Final Destination fan. I don't know why. Like, she watches clips of it on YouTube constantly. I have the DVDs all put away, but she loves these guys' work. So, like, I get that.
Man, Glen and James, hell of a creative team to put this together.
I think it was neat. Like, and Fox wasn't doing a whole hell of a lot at the time that was fantastic in 95.
Yeah, no. I mean, X-Files was churning right along at that point, but
yes, but Millennium hadn't quite come along yet, I don't think yet. Shit, so that means X-Files could have still been on Thursday nights. Yeah. No, that'll be a side topic. I'll just skip that part.
I seem to recall this show being on Sundays, if I remember right. Or was it Fridays? Fridays or Sundays? I don't remember. Shit. I should probably look that up.
I don't know. But again, I was doing different things in 95, like very weird and strange things. I was in
high school.
Yeah. I was a sophomore in high school. I was running track and cross country. I met my first love and like just loved hanging out with my friends and playing hockey all the time. Like that's just basically all I did. And Rent the Wall on the weekends and Rocky Horror Show. And yeah. The usual suspects.
Okay.
Not literally that, but like the movies I rented all the time.
It was on Sundays.
Sundays.
Yep. I think they could have picked a better night.
Yeah, because really the only thing that's ever survived on Sunday nights is Animation Domination.
Or football.
Well, football. They were certainly plugging the fuck out of that on this, weren't they?
One of my favorite parts is from the Dark of the Moon episode where Wang chucks a lighted up football deep into space. Go deep.
The 49er jokes were pissing me off. I was like, hey, it wasn't 97 yet. Kiss my ass. We were still good.
They're also like in 2063 talking about things from like a few years before. God, if the 49ers are in the Super Bowl, I'm going to die.
Well, because at that point, the Niners had been to the Super Bowl like 4 years in a row, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. Like Montana and Young were just a powerhouse.
Well, there was like a Dan Fouts reference later on, too.
Oh.
Because if you remember I think that was episode, let's take a look here. I wrote it down. Because I wrote Master Braytek was in this episode. That was in the Mutiny episode because the chief of that vessel had a Dan Fouts card and he traded it for prime rib.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That
Good
episode,
details in this.
was that the episode that gets you crying?
No.
Ah, damn. I
You want
don't
to know that episode?
I still want to know that episode. Is it in the first half?
Stay with the Dead.
I could see that. I could see that because I mean he's like lying in all these bodies. He's having PTSD. He doesn't know what the hell's actually happening to him. And
And we don't know what happens until basically the last 7 minutes of that episode.
yeah, where everything kind of strings together and works, like makes all
It's like,
sense.
oh shit, please don't plunk them.
And they're gonna lobotomize him or fry his
Electroshock or whatever it was, yeah.
fry his brain. And this was an important episode because aside from just a good story, it was very much a cautionary tale of PTSD or trying to get
Yeah.
tales of PTSD or Gulf War syndrome out to the public so it's more of an understandable thing, that it's not shell shock or whatever for the
Right.
fuck else. And they did a really good job with that on this. I think it wasn't campy, it wasn't preachy, because you know how like Hollywood could over dramatize things.
Yeah.
It was a good episode.
It's one of my absolute favorites. And every time I watch that episode, I know what happens. I've seen it quite a few times because I rewatch the show every couple of years, and it always feels like I just watched it like a month ago and I didn't. I bust out my DVDs, but this time I watched on YouTube. There's a great AI remaster. The only thing I'll kind of mention quick about that is sometimes the audio gets a little high pitched with the voices, so it's a little off. We'll put a little link in our description below if you want to check out the episodes on YouTube, or just check for Space Above and Beyond HD. I pull the show out every now and then just to watch because I just enjoy the show that much. And just every time the episode gets me, as well as a couple other episodes that get me.
Well, rationality and their plan worked against them because McQueen kept saying, "You know what happened. You know what happened." It's like, but wait, do I?
But all the evidence supported, hey, well, these bodies are in the 58's outfits and they've been scarred, burned, whatever, because a bomb went off right next to Nathan when it happened. That could have further disfigured the bodies to where you didn't know. And they were wearing the dog tags and everything. Everything had gotten switched out. And what's McQueen to say? Like, evidence is right here, dude. You came back with all these dead bodies. We can't tell them apart other than the uniforms and dog tags they were wearing. They're dead, bro. They're dead. But then when he uses the reference of McQueen, if you ask me if Kylan's alive, I don't know. I really don't know. But I know the 58th is still alive, and I know their location, and you gotta trust me. And in that split second, you're like, you almost hold your breath, and you're like, but you know, back at this time when the show was first airing, or for anybody watching the show for the very first time, a lot of this you're just watching it unfold almost in real time. Like, oh my God, please, somebody stop what they're doing to him and save him. And fortunately, they do. And it has a very solid ending.
Yeah, it really did. It was nice seeing the smile on his face, starting to see the strength, and it was what's the
Resolve.
word? Yeah, the resolve, but his own self-confidence, basically. Because it was nothing but him doubting himself. Like I said, everyone was telling him otherwise. He was telling himself otherwise. So it's like it was this great conflicted moment or episode for, like you said, it was a very high point for the character.
Yeah.
Defining you.
I thought also much needed for him too, because at that point, for the rest of this show, you do not look at him as the same doughy-eyed guy that started this show that you thought maybe he's going to be the whole center of this whole show, and he's not. It's the entire cast, and that is well done.
And that's so nice, because how often is it that you get an actual ensemble cast?
Truly ensemble cast.
It always turns out to be one person or a pair. It's like they always end up making one person the marketable face of the show.
Right.
And it was nice not to have that here because everybody was integral. And I don't mean that just as characters to the story. Like, the actors were all integral to one another. You could tell that there was a good chemistry between them.
Oh yeah. And like you got strong male characters, strong female characters, a very clear chain of command too, which whenever they feel like they're maybe testing that, they always pull it right back in. So the military aspects are very well done in my opinion. I'm not a military person, but I know some military people who have seen this show and they feel like this is one of the best shows that's ever treated the military with respect. And I've got my cousins who have been Marines, or one has been a Marine, and he loves this show. And he's like, this is excellent. If it was 2063, this is exactly what he thought the military would operate like. And I really like that. And I think that gives it a very good credibility and it brings you into the show a lot more. They treat everything so realistically that when they do introduce like the science fiction aspects of it, it doesn't feel so out of control like other shows would do.
No.
Especially with like the in vitros, like wow, that and they're not like super soldiers, which is super cool. You'd think like, oh, if we're doing like artificially gestated humans, they're gonna like soup them up, give them high intelligence, or give them super muscles or whatever.
Yeah.
No, they're just other humans. Well, they're not considered humans, they're considered like subhumans because they were grown. But at the age of 18, they're basically right out of a tank and they're automatically learning like but what they're supposed to do and be. And man, boy, do they have a hell of a history too, just like the silicates. It's this very interesting interwoven story going in between. You would think, man, this is almost getting to be too much, too complicated. It never gets so complicated that you're like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah.
It's so well done and so well spread out that you can follow along and not feel like, oh, that's too much technobabble. Oh, that's too much of this, too much of that. You never feel like it's too much with this show. And I love that.
No, all the science is pretty much natural based. It's not like there's no firing of laser cannons, there's no photon torpedoes, warp cores, anything like that. There's no hyper light speed. They travel via wormhole. So it works with theories of relativity, time, spatial material. Everything's pretty much as it would be today. The only thing that's sci-fi about it is that their ship is in space as opposed to an aircraft carrier in the ocean.
If there's anything about this show, I would love a better CGI version of the Saratoga and a lot of things. Because that Saratoga looks so badass. But when I'm rewatching it, even on the HD remaster on YouTube, I'm like, that could use a little refresh. I mean, I don't hate it. I'm so used to it. And this is what I watched back in like 95, 96 when it was on TV. So back then, like this CGI was top notch.
Well, yeah.
We're spoiled now, but
well, because a lot of what they did was practical effects, like the hammerheads and stuff like that. I'm sure they filmed
I love those too.
Just like they did with the Enterprise back in the 60s. Have it upside down and spin your camera around at different angles with stars behind it.
Yeah.
As opposed to having the actual computer generated image. And it worked. I mean, do the hammerheads look a little bit like Captain Power ships? Sure. But do Captain Power ships also look cool? Fuck yes, they do.
Oh God, I love the hammerheads. There was a story. I'm trying to remember how it went. Somebody will probably correct us, but like when they were doing the physical shooting, like, as I think it was in somebody correct me if I'm wrong. It was like Australia, and like some foreign country was actually inspecting the arrival of the ships, thinking that it was new military hardware, and so. It was pretty funny that a foreign country was inspecting what they thought was a new U.S. military aircraft that was a threat to national security for them. So they were checking out the aircraft. There is a story about that. If we can get a link to it, I'll throw it in the description below. But it's pretty funny.
I can't wait to check that one out. Then
I'll also send it to you when we're done.
All right. But we were talking about the side factions aside from the Chigs. You were saying that we had the Silicates and it just popped out of my head.
The chicks, AI, silicates,
There was
and the in vitros.
yes,
and the
and
humans.
the in vitros.
So that's 4.
I was talking about the side characters. I have questions about the in vitros.
Okay.
So Nipple Neck and Tank is their slur. McQueen calls Hawks a stupid tank at one point, doesn't he? Like,
Yep.
self-loathing. Self-loathing.
Well, he's probably trying to get his attention, and that's the only thing that would maybe catch his attention.
Fair enough.
And being that he is one, he could call him one as well.
That works. That works. That's our word. No. So my question was was the hate towards the in vitros, was that because they chose not to fight in the Silicate Wars?
Correct.
Okay.
I think largely that is correct. And then after that, they just kept that assumption going that they were lazy and didn't want to do any.
Well, yeah, I mean, because they certainly colored that slavery tone or indentured servitude tone there.
Yep.
And so the fact that they even considered doing that, I was kind of like, ooh. So, I mean,
that's a bit ugly, I know, right?
It's heavy. And then when you get to Mutiny, and Hawks is the first person to ever find a family member out of the in vitros.
Oh yeah.
And he has to kill her. I had questions with that episode. It's like, we spent this whole time squabbling. Could we have not evacuated in another deck in that time? Like, I felt bad for the in vitros.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, it's like, do you kill one person to save 10? I mean, there is no right answer, but what would anybody else in that position do? You would kill the one person to save 10.
Yeah.
The lesser of two evils. And it's unfortunate. I mean, that's a great point to bring up. Like, that's almost every episode is a conversation piece. And that episode, that's the big conversation piece, is how do you justify killing so many just to save that many more? It's a heavy question. And there is no right or wrong answer. Could they have figured out something? If they had more time, they probably could have, but they were dealing with the nuclear reactor problem.
Yeah.
And the threat of another alien ship about to blow them the fuck up.
There was that.
Now, good question.
Chigs. They got chigs from chiggers, yes?
Ticks. Yep.
Yeah, tiggers and chicks. It was fine the way I said it before. Like, golly, that was just an uncomfortable word. Like, every time they said it, I was like, no.
Well, even back in the 90s when I first heard it, I was just like, hey, wait a minute, what?
But at the same
and it's not like, other slurs, but you're using it towards an alien race, and boy, did you kind of dub them.
But at the same time, and I'm sure I'll end up getting hate for this, and I mean no one of any creed, any offense, but whenever there's a war, there's always a slur for the enemy. There's always some horrible slur for your enemy. It doesn't matter if it's the Japanese, the Germans, us, the Russians, the Italians. It does not matter. There's
everybody
a slur.
One for everybody and more.
Yep. And that's one of the things that it shows we don't evolve past in the future here. Like, we're still pretty much stuck on that.
Yeah. That Mutiny episode, one of the things I really like that Dan Foose says is, I'm willing to work with anybody who wants to do the work.
Yeah.
And she was basically asked, like, do you mind working with us in vitros? And she's like, I'm happy to work with anybody who wants to work. And I thought that was one of the most powerful lines in that episode. And I love Dan Foose, and I love that every episode she at least got a little something to shine with. So it's not like she just was a completely background character and had like throwaway lines.
No, she was very strong. She had a lot of the answers when there were problems. She was the problem solver. Like, she was just a cool character.
Yeah.
But you're right. I do remember that with they're all stuck underground, which I did not see the angle of the mutiny coming when I first saw the title of the episode.
Oh yeah.
I thought that the first mate was such a prick that he was going to inevitably be the bad guy. And then he I guess was supposed to be a good guy. Am I getting that right? Because I wasn't sad to see him get shot at all.
Oh, the dreadlock guy?
Yeah, like, he was kind of an asshole.
Everybody was kind of an asshole in that episode, to be honest with you. That was already the crew of that ship.
Well, yeah, I mean, granted, the captain was a slave trader, but at least he had some respect for them as people as opposed to like things. I
Oh,
guess.
he would get his when he gets onto Stargate, where he becomes a person who has freed himself from slavery.
Oh,
It's kind of a nice little poetic twist, and it was never intended that way, but like it was not lost on me the irony of how he goes from like the space above and beyond to Stargate SG-1 as Master Braytech.
Master Braytech. I still need to get in the scene, all that stuff.
We will discuss that in November.
Is it November already? I need to
when
look
we
at
get
our
to
schedule.
November.
I need to look at our schedule.
I'm going on vacation in October for a week and a half, and so we got a little schedule going on now. But when we get back from that, then we can kind of settle in on the rest of the year and whatever else happens for other projects.
And I live on vacation, so I'll just be here doing the same thing that I always do.
That's right. Watching more Space Above and Beyond. No, I'm kidding.
We have not really talked about it yet.
Let's do it.
Episode 6. Ray Butts.
It's as easy as eating pancakes. On your feet.
Goddamn right, man.
Where would
And you know where we've seen him before, right? American Gothic.
Yes.
Throwback to our American Gothic episodes, everybody. Ray Butts was in one of the early episodes of that one as the junkyard owner.
Yeah, the one. Yeah. The one whose daughter was flirting with the previous owner.
He's so much better in this show.
Yes, but he refers to himself in the third person quite a bit, and it's really funny.
Easier than pancakes.
That's what Ray Butts does. Ray Butts would do this. Ray Butts does not do that. It's like, well, what the fuck does Ray Butts do?
He's pancakes and kicks ass.
That's
and he's
true.
all out of pancakes.
And that was fucked up at the end where they're just kind of like, let's just toss these fucking pancakes out the airlock.
I didn't think that was messed up. I thought that was, a tribute to, hey, he died out in space. Let's send some pancakes out to him. I thought it was actually very charming and sweet.
That was the white equivalent to one for my homies. And that's really what that was, which is fine.
Fight them if you got them all.
Well, yeah. But no, it was a very interesting ending for Ray Butts. Like, I can't say that I disliked it. I didn't want to see him die by any means.
Well, that's the thing. It starts off the episode where you think he's dead, and then at the end of the episode, he's actually dead.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny, but not funny at the same time.
Well, he may or may not be, because they allude to you could be in every single point in time all at once and none at all. And you're just kind of like, or gravity could just compress you completely into non-existence. But yeah, but he does so listening to Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
And like, that's where I'm really torn, because it's like, I hate country, but I don't mind Johnny Cash for the most part. But I don't want to die listening to country at all for anyone, for any reason.
Well, at least he wasn't listening to Burn, Burn, Burn like a burning ring of fire.
But see, I like that song. Like Silent Hill kind of made that song fun for me. I was like, ooh.
Nothing wrong with that. Just making a joke.
Oh, yes, I know.
But
because the burning ring of fire is after, Hot Wings.
Yeah.
I'm in my 40s. Anyway.
Bunch of kids.
Yeah. But no, the Ray Butts, so his whole thing is he just wanted a squad to help him go back to enemy lines to retrieve his troop, basically.
He was using them just to get back so he could take care of the business of putting his former squad to rest and then be able to take their ships and get back to the fleet. It goes to the leave no man behind. Well, he felt a serious responsibility for all them dying, and he had to go back at all costs to make sure that they were all buried and taken care of and laid to rest. And it's unfortunate, but took a tragic toll on him, losing all of them. And it just, like he said, Manson, you were right. Some of us are born mean, but you were also right. And sometimes something happens that makes us meaner.
Yeah.
And that's something that just drove him to the edge. And he was going to keep going. he wasn't trying to like kill himself. He just didn't give a shit as long as it got him to the point where he could take care of his former squadron members.
Yeah. And at the same time, helped the 58 out of the jam that he couldn't have helped prior. So,
Well, he put them in a jam.
well, yeah, he did do that. And
what I liked was his training situation for them on the ship when they were told he's now your commander, and TC's just like, oh, come on already. And then all of a sudden you see his training ordeal where he's taking all these shortcuts and they're shooting him with the paint pellets all up and down. And I'm like, boy, did he whip somebody's ass.
now, have you played paintball before?
I have.
It sucks. I mean, it's fun.
It hurts.
Yeah, it's fun, but getting hit sucks.
No headshots, yo, because these dudes were not wearing helmets. I'm sure they weren't really hit with paintballs like that.
When
he got Hawks, I'm just like, oh, that's cheap, dude.
Those were little gotcha guns, I think, that they were firing. That was more the paint spatter as opposed to the pellet. But holy crap. Paintball was fun back in the 90s. That was a dope trend.
That was rage, man.
Yeah. But they did a lot of paintball in this episode, and then a couple times I've seen Hawks using VR. And it makes me happy because I would hate something like this because VR didn't take off as it was supposed to. Like they said in the early 90s, but now it's coming back and it's getting to the point of being much, much better than what they ever thought it could have been.
This time it's not going to go away. This time it's going to stick around. It's how big it really gets. That's what time will tell. It's not like 3D, which is a fad that cycles in and out every 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
VR is now here. It's not leaving. It's just what final form will it really assume or in entertainment. But for the purposes of this show, I thought that was pretty dope. I wanted to play that game when I watched this show.
Does it show you the game? Like I've seen him wearing the goggles. I just haven't seen the game itself.
That's off the top of my head. I honestly don't remember, but it might at some point.
Do you remember the game Operation Wolf?
I do.
They have remade Operation Wolf for the PS.
Really?
Yes, for the PS VR 2. And it is the game. It's the exact same game, except for you put on the helmet and you're on a 3D rail ride, basically. And it's just kind of like watching Hawks, where you're shooting everything in every different direction. And they make you hold your hands in the position that you would be holding a rifle or an M16 in that position in the jungle.
Oh, cool.
So now when I see him doing those VR games, I'm kind of like, yeah, man, I want to go play fucking Transformers or Operation Wolf when I'm done too.
There you go.
Yeah, because VR shooting games are awesome.
Yeah.
That tickles my fancy.
But I like the use of that in the first half of the show. It does appear, I know they show Hawks doing it again in other episodes throughout the show. So it is something that's kind of a little gimmick for him. It almost feels like he needs to be doing something at all times. He's one of those kind of guys. Like he doesn't like sitting still, which kind of goes against the whole, oh, you in vitros are lazy. Well, McQueen proves that's not true. And he actually makes it a point to say that in an episode, like, I'm doing this to prove to everybody we are not lazy and to make you wonder why I'm actually risking my life to save human lives. And I think Hawks is picking up on that. They got a fun, like, father-son dynamic going on without being a father-son duo.
That's true. For lack of a better term, it's the closest thing that they're going to have to one another.
Right. I mean, this whole squad is now a family. And poor McQueen lost the Angry Angels, the 127th, 137th. He lost the Angry Angels in the first episode, and, well, he became their commander. And I think as soon as he became their commander and the show got rolling, like, he was the perfect guy to lead that team. And the only thing I'll kind of mention as an aside is, did you notice from the pilot episode to the second episode, the Commodores changed on the Saratoga?
Yes, I did.
I love Tucker Smallwood. I much preferred him anyway.
Yes.
So that was fun.
Well, like I said, he's legend. So like when you see him, you just kind of smile like, oh. But I just totally lost it. I was trying to think of something else that we were talking about with the Saratoga earlier, and I completely blanked out.
Oh, as far as like the Ray Butts episode and the use of what, maybe the Suts? Because we were talking about like the VR shooting and everything.
I honestly don't recall. I don't remember where I left that off. But I'm just gonna pass that because I know we were talking about Tucker Smallwood being a legend of TV.
Oh yeah, and I love Tucker in River of Stars when he starts strumming the guitar for the 58th. He's like, this might be unbecoming of a Commodore, but I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah. Now that episode, people are probably gonna get pissed. Like that was a very preachy episode, for lack of a better term. And if you're Christian or Catholic, that's fine. It's about Christmas. But there was nothing of the Santa Claus aspect to it, nothing of the watered down. It was all very strict Jesus of Nazareth and whatnot. Until Ross comes up and starts strumming on that guitar, like noodling on it just wonderfully. And it got to the point where I was kind of like, well, I'm going to put on the expensive headphones and listen to this because it was really nice.
It's very good.
Yeah, and it fits so well in that scene. In fact, I'd say it probably made that episode one of the better episodes that I've seen so far.
Now, was there an episode you didn't like? Not to derail our convo, but like you talk about that being one of your favorites. Was there one you didn't like, or what are some of your other favorites so far?
Episode 7 stands out. Which one was that? I remember telling you like
Eyes.
Which,
real quick, directed by Felix Alcala from Brimstone fame. He directed many episodes of the TV show Brimstone in 1998, a few years later.
Oh, I have Eyes written down in my movie notepad. Damn it. So there was, what was it with Eyes?
That's the assassination attempt when the two, the UN president gets smoked, the leader of the world, and then they have to have a new election for 2 ambassadors. One is the French ambassador, and then the other one is the blind one.
That episode, that was a real strong one. It did not go the way I was thinking it was going to go.
This is why I told you I do not talk about this show until we record, because I want you to see these episodes as they are, and none of them go as you think, and the show just keeps it going in the second half.
The fact that the French guy wasn't the bad guy floored me. The blind woman who had everyone's best interests at heart, basically the Democrat, was the one who was trying to assassinate the Frenchman so she could get into power and do all sorts of other shit. And I was like, wow, how like life that the fucking nicer one's the real douche.
It's a very strong episode, one of the best written episodes of the show, and had nothing to do with Chigs. They had a little of the silicates in this episode, but everything else was all humans, all trying to contend with the ramifications of change in leadership of the known world.
Yeah, which I think America wins by the time that they have the funeral for the 61st at the end, because they all have American flags on their caskets. So
yeah,
and so I guess that means we're in charge of the world at this point, or it's our turn to manage the world
because of the elections.
Yeah. Everyone's got to pick straws every so many years, I figure. So, but no.
What I like is I wrote down "bitch" at the end of that episode.
Bitch.
She's just staring because, West is like, I'd rather get the truth than a medal. And so he asks her, did you know about the aliens before you sent the humans to tell us? She just takes the medal and just walks away. And I'm like, you bitch.
Kinda. Like, come on now. And
that gives him his answer too, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. 150 years of no response. And, okay.
Some things never change.
Like, yeah, because you have the government kidnapping French Stewart, trying to silence him, find out what he knows, and then silence him. They try doing the same thing.
French Stewart.
Look.
No, keep going. I should have waited. I didn't mean to do that.
Anyway, so they kidnap him, trying to silence him. They try to silence West a couple times. Like, the government spook that's not spooky anymore. Like he's kind of a douche.
Well, and then you have the two people he rescued from Tellus in like the second episode. They get hauled off. And to be frank with you, we never see them again.
Which
the two women that Nathan rescued from Tellus.
Oh,
When he went AWOL in the second episode, I'm like, wow, we're really quick on doing abandonment episodes, AWOL episodes.
They started doing that in the first goddamn episode. Hawks breaks formation. It's like, fuck it, I got the Ramones playing. Let's go do it.
Let's go.
I love that part.
So they don't show those two ladies again. That's interesting because that's the last thing you really see from them is was it West looking at them as they go nervously through the door with the government spook.
Yep, go forth and go back home to your fancy wines and cheeses, and probably now being locked up in solitary confinement so you don't talk to anybody ever again.
Yeah, right. It'll be a complete 0 point if we get into. You think the government keeps secrets about aliens from us?
Well, not if you paid attention to those recent congressional talks. But whatever about those.
I didn't actually, so that's why that's why I say.
That's okay.
Yeah, but no. I don't know. It sucks for him, obviously. Like, does he get his girlfriend? You're not going to tell me. The episode where he thinks he finds his girlfriend.
Yes.
I didn't think she was a Skrull. I thought she had been brainwashed to enemy side. And I was like, oh, that tripping bitch.
I thought that would get you.
That treacherous hole. But yeah, and then she melted and turned green. I was like, oh, she's a Skrull. Never mind.
Yep. I kind of looked at it as if the chicks were already working with the silicates, they know about the in vitros. They were probably trying to mimic that a little bit and made some sort of weird clone. How they knew Nathan was there is kind of beyond me, unless they have like a database of reports on like the 58th, because they all started pegging each and every one of those people as they were going through the hostages.
Yeah.
Like they were playing games with freaking everybody. I love Damphus and Vanson just totally turning it in on the AIs that they start fighting, and then they ultimately just start whipping ass.
She had serious rage for them, and then she had a great moment of clearing the room for everyone.
Oh yeah.
That was awesome. I enjoyed Vanson's angry side. Mama had some rage to spend.
I love Kristen Cloak. She's fantastic as Vanson, and she's basically the leader of the 58th, just the next step down from McQueen.
Yeah, that's really the way that it comes off. Like Nathan might be the beau of the show, but she's given the orders when it comes out to being out in the field.
Yep, and they all do listen to her. They do sometimes voice up and they say like, hey, what about this? Hey, I'm thinking this is what's going on. She does listen. So at least we got that going on. And then you got Cooper Hawks, Rodney, who does a fantastic job playing that role. And he's another beau of the show too, because he's very studly. And I like where he goes in this first half.
Yeah, I mean, he's funny. Like if you look at his character, like the kissing Vanson without her permission, which clearly she didn't mind horribly. He's a child. He's a grown-up child. All the in vitros are. They've never experienced anything. The first time he apologized to anybody was at Pags' grave. The first time he kissed somebody was Vanson on the first episode, and she smacks him in the face for it.
Not the reaction he was hoping for.
Yeah.
What were you hoping for? I don't know. was his answer.
Yeah, like I wasn't sure what the etiquette was here. He buys her his first Christmas present that he buys for anybody. And
the bowling alley tickets.
Yeah, and she hates bowling alleys. Or she hates bowling.
They're for dweebs or dorks or whatever.
And then he gets all like, oh, did I fuck up? And Wes tells him, no, you did great. And yeah, he did, because he bought her something, and that means a lot to her, but now she got to go.
Well, and that goes to his line in that, goes to Vanson's line in that episode of, Goop, you may be like an in vitro, but you know way more about the idea of Christmas than anybody else does, because it's the act of just the fact you gave me something means a lot to me. And then she's like, you understand this concept better than anybody on this ship.
Yeah, because
And that gave him a very nice moment and hug too. So
because he genuinely wants her to like him. Like,
I think he generally wants everybody to like him, which is funny when him and Nathan for the first like 5 episodes are kicking each other's ass.
yeah,
I kind of look at them like brothers, you know, like these two, like they're gonna beat each other up, but if anybody else tries to beat them up, get the hell out of the way because they're both gonna wreck shop.
they did that a few times. The fight scenes.
Do you remember the one with Ray Butts and Wang stood up to Butts and he's like, if you weren't wearing those olive leaves, I'd kick your ass up between your shoulder blades. And so he basically Ray starts the fight, and then everybody comes running, and unfortunately West shows up and he accidentally decks.
Oh, that's
God.
right.
That's one of those moments I laugh every time. I'm like, oh, you hit your buddy there.
Ray Butts will turn people against each other. That's what Ray Butts would do. Because that's how Ray Butts
would
rolls.
test him every time. Get back in time for pancakes.
For pancakes. I like it, the pancakes. This show did make me want to watch pancakes, and I'm sure we should probably have more pictures of us eating pancakes for this promotion.
Oh, that's a thought.
Pancakes.
Pancake.
Brought to you by Pancakes. The Pancake Council. But it was neat seeing pancakes floating through space.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
How IHOP didn't pick that up for a commercial was beyond me.
I mean, sponsorship, that goes back to marketing. Just saying.
So was Fox just against marketing back then or now?
I don't know what the deal was, but there was like no marketing. Their marketing budget for their show is basically non-existent. I almost wonder if it was because of like how special effects heavy the show was. But honestly, I look at this with the CGI, I'm like, it's not that much. And it feels like they're conserving it for when it's really needed for the story. They don't just show CGI just for doing CGI. Like it's practical as much as possible for this kind of a show set in the future in a space war. So I feel like they watched their budget. Yeah, of course, the cost was probably high because you had a lot of extras at times and a lot of sets going on, which, by the way, the set design, props, everything going on in this show is immaculate. The detail is incredible. Awesome costume design. The look and feel of this show is outstanding. So sets, costumes, everything, bar none, is awesome in this show. But where the money went, I don't know why Fox just didn't say like, hey, we'll do something for you. They just didn't.
Wow.
I don't know why. I mean, if Glenn and James ever get around to doing like a tell-all interview, maybe we'll find out like what happened behind closed doors with things that they were promised that never happened. Things have gotten out over the years about some stories and things that were promised that never delivered. Like one of the big things was they were promised 6 episodes would air 6 weeks in a row without interruption, no skipping nights, no skipping weeks. And that didn't happen. So Fox was reneging on promises almost right away once it started airing.
That sounds like them. Now,
that's a Fox move.
Did it stay on the same night at least?
As far as I remember, it did. But I do remember at times, oh, hey, there's a week off. Oh, hey, 2 weeks. Oh, 1 week there's a preemption for a sporting event. I mean, I watched every episode when it aired. I did not miss one at all. But I do remember, like, yeah, there was times it was a week in between episodes, or one time I believe there was a 2-week difference, other than the obvious mid-season break. And this is about, I think after this episode, there was a break for a few weeks.
Oh, okay.
Because that's Christmas time. So December, January, and I think it came back in February or March.
So there'll have been a couple adventures in between now and then, and it'll reference
because then the last episode happens in June of '96. I remember that.
Oh.
Because a few weeks later, I was moving to Wisconsin to go to college.
Ah, so you were getting ready to scream, Packers! Packers won the Super Bowl!
I was getting ready to scream, screw California.
Yes. I didn't get to do that until 2004. but I said screw Northern California in 99.
Gotcha.
Moved down to Southern California, went, this place is fucking insane.
Right.
These people are insane.
Well, there's still an elephant in the room, Kevin. T.C. McQueen. What did you think of James Morrison?
He is probably the nicest and most inspirational commanding officer I have ever seen. Like, I have seen both Hawks and West lip up to him, and he considers what they say, which is rational and good. But how often do you, like Arlie Ermy at the beginning?
Oh, yeah, Arlie.
Probably would not have fucking taken that shit. Did you see him crying at the fucking graduation?
Yep.
That killed me. I'm like, I told her, I was like, baby, Sergeant Ermy's crying on this show.
Arlie is so good. Every time I see him, I just always smile. I'm like, there's Murder Grandpa.
Murder Grandpa.
That's a wrestling reference, everybody. Sorry, but he's that old grandfather type that you look at him and you're like, that's one bad motherfucker. We curse on this podcast.
That's true. And that's also how I look at Sergeant Slaughter, because Sarge is just cool that way.
Colonel T.C. McQueen, I love his character. When I was doing my written reviews on our Facebook page a few years ago, I basically was a fanboy for him, and it's unchanged. Still probably one of the best actors on this show. Without him being the anchor for the 58th, I don't know what kind of show we ultimately would have gotten. It still would have been well written, but he just brings this show up to another level. And whenever the focus is on him, he steps up. Whenever it needs to be on somebody else, he steps back. And his presence, he just commands it. He exudes charisma. He's just incredibly talented. Like, you could be laughing in 1 minute with him, and in the next minute you're like, oh my God, he's going to kill somebody in the next minute. And if you liked what you've seen, have you liked what you've seen through these first 12 episodes, Kevin, with TC?
I have, yes.
You're about to love him, because things are going to happen in this second half that you're going to be like, McQueen, oh my God.
Well, I'm down for that, because everyone is really cool so far. Like, there's not been a character where I'm kind of like, do we need them? They're not necessary for this. There's none of that.
That's rare for a show for me to say that as well. And this show does not have that character. No. I even like the squirrely, shadowy Sewell dude from Aerotech.
That's the spook that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And is that their equivalent of NASA?
Well, that's one of the big tech giants. I think so, because they were also running the launches and the Tellus colonies and everything.
Right. They were who Nathan was originally working with, right?
Yeah. I'm kind of glad he didn't work for them anymore and he didn't go on that ship, because now he could be one of the people that kicks some ass.
Yeah. It worked out much better that way in hindsight.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm sorry, but the effects that they showed of that rocket getting shot at as it was trying to land.
Oh, I know.
I could just hear the voice in my head going, surprise!
The Jack in the Box.
By the way, we do exist.
Yep. Pretty much.
Phone home, fuckers. No, but this was neat. I love the concept of this so far. I'm really enjoying the stories of each episode, and I am looking forward to seeing where it's going up until the end, because I hate the fact that we watch shows that inevitably end quickly.
Yep, and abruptly. And I mean, you'll see what happens with that. The only other comment I have on the first part of this half, and it's going to be one that echoes through the second half, is I love the soundtrack. I love the score. Shirley Walker crushed it out of the park with this. I would consider this her best work. And she's incredibly talented. And the iconic theme that you heard at the beginning of the episode, and other cues, scores, everything else she did throughout this whole show is just beyond incredible. It's one of my favorites. I actually have the double disc soundtrack on my shelf up here that I listen to quite often.
Oh,
and
that's
this,
cool.
Be warned, if you go looking on eBay for the Shirley Walker original soundtrack from the Fox television series, be warned, This is not cheap. This was limited to 3,000 copies.
Wow.
This is easily over $100 for a beat up used one.
Wow.
Easy. So be warned if you go looking for that. I know you could probably get it digitally somewhere, but not sure what the cost would be.
That's
but I
still
love
cool.
that. It's freaking phenomenal, that disc set.
Well, the DVD set's almost impossible to find too, isn't it?
You can get the DVD sets on eBay. They range in price depending on, do you want brand new sealed from 2002 or do you want used and possibly scratched discs? But that said, I'm going to throw out a keyword at the end of this episode, so stay tuned for that. We are doing a giveaway, and we will announce a keyword in each episode of our podcast series covering Space Above and Beyond, and there will be a giveaway, and there will be a DVD set included with that.
Well, don't make it French Stewart, because then people will want to give their gift back.
Yeah, they'll treat it like Third Rock of the Sun and chuck it into the sun. French Stewart wasn't that bad in this show. He did this and Stargate well before he got to Third Rock. That really kind of diminished his career.
He did really well on this. I really wish I'd seen him in this before Third Rock. Like,
yeah, you mentioned to me French Stewart. I'm like, this is before Third Rock was like literally what I wrote. You're like, oh, thank God.
No, even then I'm kind of like, I don't give a shit. But no, he did really well. I didn't even recognize him for the most part.
Furthest man from home.
Yeah, like you could feel that he was crazy and was scared. He did a good job.
Yep. But as Sewell said, he is not the furthest man from home, which made you wonder, wait, who is the farthest man from home at this point in the show?
Major Tom. That's all I had.
No, it's just one of those like lingering questions. Like if you're a detail freak, you're like, wait a minute, who's he talking about? Is it one of the people that have been like enslaved and imprisoned by the Chigs that were hauled off from the Tellus colony, the survivors? Or is there something else we don't know about? I don't know. Don't change that channel.
Okay. Wait, I have one more question before we go. Do the Chigs have issues with water?
No.
Okay.
This is not going to be like Signs, dude. This is not going to be like the movie Signs.
They give this thing a fucking sip of water, and the moment they do, it starts bleeding out of its gills or blowhole, whatever the fuck it was. And then later on, they say, "God, I can't believe it killed itself." And I'm like, "Yes, killed itself. Of course, tragic."
Well, at this point in this show, you would almost think like there was some sort of like a suicide pill or something like that.
I thought they were just like, it couldn't have been the water. Everyone loves water.
I even love it when Hawks is trying to take the helmet off, like when they get that one ship in Hostile Visit, the first of the two-parters in this show, and they get that like ship just stranded over their bow, and they bring it on board, and Hawks kills one, and he goes to take the helmet off. He's like, oh, hey, like it can't hurt to look. We're on a fact-finding mission in here. And so he goes to take the helmet off, and then gas escapes, and then it starts to dissolve. And it's like, oh man, do you think I'm going to get busted for that? See, that's one of the charms of this show is like the unintentional humor at times. Like they do not write these lines to be jokes, but the way it's performed, the way it's directed, the way it ends up coming across the screen, it's like that's unintentionally funny because that's incredibly funny actually. It's not a zinger, it's just, you think I'm gonna get busted for that shit?
To my knowledge, like he was just having the reaction to water, like it was acid to his cells, and they're like, "I can't believe he killed himself."
Oh,
it's so naughty.
yeah, there's a lot of standout episodes in this first half. Like there's a lot to like and a lot to grab onto, a lot to latch onto. Like writing, directing, everything is just so on point and so enjoyable. I can't wait to get into the second half with you.
It was probably its success, or at least not success, but quality that turned Fox away from it because they don't like having to pay for too much. So
True.
If something is exciting and new, someone's going to go check it out and watch it. If it's finding out what happens later, they might catch it or might see a rerun later. They don't know. I don't know. I'm angry at Fox again for this one.
Yeah, and this is a touchy one for me, but I'm very happy to talk about it. And you're going to find out in the next episode what we really think about Fox and a few other things. So thank you everybody for tuning in. We got a fun little giveaway. The keyword for this episode is hammerhead. So make sure you keep a track of that keyword and we will give you the details in our next giveaway. It's basically going to be a nice little swag bag and maybe a Amazon gift card will be included. Not a maybe, there will be one, but we will announce a lot more details in the next episode. So please stay tuned for that.
Hello, this is Ryan Swinsky from Yum Yum Podcast. I host a show with my wife Rachel in which we review episodes of science fiction television one at a time. We have done Star Trek Discovery, we are making our way through the final season of Babylon 5 right now, and our discussions on Space Above and Beyond are coming out on the main feed. My wife has never seen Space Above and Beyond before, while I have. So if you are someone new to the series or you're deeply familiar and you're wanting a companion podcast, come check us out, Yum Yum Podcast. We are available on all of the podcasting sites as well as social medias under Yum Yum Podcast. We are breaking down each and every episode of Space Above and Beyond, and I hope that you can join us in our journey.
Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Suns and Shadows Cast. We are at SunsAndShadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.